I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. Michael Dougherty's joining us.
What is this, back-to-back Democrats? That's crazy.
Billy, it dawned on me yesterday, Democrats are treated better on the Jeff and Bill show than Republicans are on Next. Kyle Clark.
That's funny. Yeah, probably true. Yes.
That is true.
That is true.
100%.
Absolutely true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Not here to drive my agenda, defeat Democrats, and use my power to shame them.
Yeah.
No, it's a conversation about their policies in an effort to try to move Colorado forward. And I poke holes, and they respond, and that's how it works.
Yes,
well,
that's how it works.
Excited to have Michael Dougherty joining us. He's a DA up in Boulder County, and he, right now, conservatives, is your best shot at stopping Jena Griswold from becoming Attorney General. Because they're in a primary together. Jena wants to be the Attorney General. Michael Dougherty, who has actual experience fighting crime, is running in the Democrat primary too. 30-year career as a prosecutor. So you got to listen to this one. This is a big one. Not going to want to miss it. Now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Tuesday morning. 25 degrees and mostly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 47 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Greg Bovino, top Border Patrol official, leaving Minneapolis and returning to his old position in California. Border czar Tom Homan will now be DJT's point person in Minneapolis. And Border Patrol is also planning to lower the number of agents on the ground in Minnie this week. Homan and that mayor, that freakazoid Fry, they're going to have a meeting today. Bill O'Reilly.
By the way, on this real quick, this was the best line I saw on X. The Dems yesterday, Trump is Hitler. ICE are the Gestapo, and this is Nazi Germany. Somalians are Anne Frank. The Dems today, we just got off the phone with Hitler, and we're happy to cooperate with him and the Gestapo.
God, they're so lame.
They are
so
They
tired.
push it all the time.
Can they come up with someone other than Hitler? Just to be creative.
And then the next day, brag about their cooperation with him.
Right, exactly. God, what a joke. All right, Bill O'Reilly with what is not being reported.
There is a man in Shanghai, China, an American citizen. His name is Neville Roy Singham. He works with the Beijing government. He is funneling millions of dollars into the United States of America through 501s like Party for Socialism and Liberation, Democratic Socialists of America, Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. There he is, okay? Connecticut-born, 71 years old, billionaire tech guy. He is funneling money here to these radical organizations who are then agitating professional people, communists mostly, because Singham's a communist, all right, to go in and foster rebellion. You heard that story reported? That is absolutely true. The man has been investigated by the FBI in the past, this Singham character, okay? This isn't some organic thing. This is a foreign power, Beijing, using this American citizen who lives openly in Shanghai in luxury, knowing that this man is funneling tens of millions, probably more, into this country to try to destroy the government. What the deuce is that?
Exactly. They're all paid protesters.
What's the deuce?
What's the deuce? All these, the ones that aren't paid are just stupid enough to be involved and easily manipulated. What a joke. It is a joke. Just look at it as just riot porn. That's all it is. Once again, 47 is headed to Iowa today. The White House says his speech in the city of Clive will focus on affordability and energy. It's the latest stop in DJT's tour to tout his economic accomplishments heading into the midterms. A bald eagle is recovering after being illegally shot a couple of weeks ago in North Glen.
Eagle had to undergo surgery and is recovering.
Your
so
KNUS forecast.
Rehabber, and we're hopeful that the eagle will make a full recovery.
Caravan Hoos, CPW, says a ball bearing was found in its wing. The incident happened near Croak Reservoir in North Glen, prompting an investigation.
It's not legal at all to shoot or harm bald eagles in any way or disturb their nests or even as simple as taking their feathers. We really need help from people who have any information, who have details, maybe information with the bird itself to come forward.
So they're asking anyone to call Colorado's Operation Game Thief if you have any information. Aurora City Councilman Rob Andrews, he's not stepping down following his arrest for suspicion of driving under the influence, but he does say that he's dedicated to showing accountability, and it has to be more than words.
While this plays out, I am voluntarily registering for a restorative justice class, working with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and taking proactive steps to ensure this never happens again.
Andrews read that prepared statement. Go ahead.
Do they get paid on the Aurora City Council? Does anyone know that?
Let's see.
Because is he just trying to hang on to a job at this point?
Yeah, I think it's just his name, right? I'm assuming he's trying to make sure he crosses all the T's and dots all the I's. So in 5 years, when they look back at it,
you want to talk about privilege?
Look a little
That's
better.
privilege.
That
right there.
I agree with you.
That right there, being able to drive 3 times over the legal limit with somebody else in the car, get popped for it, and then just be able to go, well, I'm taking some social justice classes.
Yeah, I think City Council has something like $20,000 stipend, et cetera, over the course of the year, something like that. I mean, I'm saying stipend because I don't think that $20,000 is necessarily commensurate pay for the work they're doing. So that's why I'm using that term.
Those meetings?
Yeah. So,
I don't think so.
That's the thing is, I don't think that's worth. I don't think the pay is worth what you go through. So, but yeah,
especially
there is a
when Tay-Tay's walking through there.
Yeah.
No doubt. Radio legend Jimmy Walker has passed away at the age of 85. He owned and operated KDKO, my favorite radio station in the 80s, by the way. Thank God for Dr. Daddy-O. It was the only place I could hear my jams, from El DeBarge to the Isley Brothers, Houdini, Gab
nobody's
Band.
doing that. Yeah, nobody's doing Houdini. Nobody's doing Gab Band.
No.
Pretty Sugar Hill Gang.
Well, see, the interesting thing, Denver, it's kind of like in space, because the majority of cities had urban contemporary radio stations. So anything kind of really east of Kansas, you could find, every city would have an urban contemporary radio station, whether it's Dallas, Houston, Austin, whatever, Kansas City, Chicago, and then you just go further east. And then you had, on the West Coast, you'd have these stations. But a city like Denver and Salt Lake City didn't have those stations. And so it was great. Even though it was on AM, I put my clothes hanger on the top of the radio so I could hear all the jams.
Exactly. That's exactly what you had to do. Oh, that's great.
Absolutely. Peter was on with these guys earlier.
And he was, as you pointed out, Billy, he was a pioneer in Denver. He was, he grew up in the heart of Jim Crow when things changed. He was 85, rich life, great life. Ended up they bought KDKO, and that was one of the first African-American owners of and really in the country, guys were getting those jobs, but radio pioneer.
Yes, he was, no doubt. Thank goodness for him. The Pistons at the Nuggets tonight without Jokic. Hopefully he returns in just over a week. The Avalanche and the Senators tomorrow at 5:30. It's 18 in Castle Rock, 20 in Lakewood, 25 in Denver. You are waking up with Jeff and Billy, and it is a Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710. KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures upper teens and lower 20s. We'll be under a cool northwest flow for the next several days. This will keep temperatures near to slightly above average to round out the month of January. Daytime highs for this Tuesday on through Thursday, upper 40s to low 50s. Overnight lows going to be in the mid to upper 20s. Low 50s for Friday and Saturday, kicking off February on Sunday with highs near 60. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Press release from the Michael Dougherty for Attorney General campaign. Michael Dougherty joins legal challenge as federal court reviews deadly ICE crackdown in Minneapolis today. He now joins us on the Jeff and Bill show. He currently serves as a district attorney up in Boulder County. Good morning, Michael. Thank you for joining our program this morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to speaking with you and with your listeners.
Tell us about joining this amicus brief, Minnesota v. Nome. What's the legal challenge all about?
I signed on to the amicus brief because ICE must follow the law, just like every other law enforcement agency in the country, and nobody is above the Constitution, and deadly law enforcement without oversight is unacceptable. I also recognize that the state and local communities have powers that are not being honored in this process, so I signed on to the amicus brief in support of their efforts.
There's a lot of debate happening, particularly around Minneapolis and what's happening in Minnesota. Give us your read of what happened over the weekend with the shooting of Alex, and what do you think needs to happen and change up in Minnesota?
Well, certainly what happened in Minneapolis, including the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, is tragic and unacceptable. And having been a prosecutor my entire career, I know how important it is that there be a full and complete investigation after law enforcement uses deadly force. That's the kind of work I've been doing my entire career. That investigation should be transparent, and consequences have to be in place for anybody who committed an illegal action. So it's my hope that we would see the state of Minnesota and local officials conducting a full investigation with the cooperation of the federal government and without, if necessary.
That's Michael Dougherty. He currently serves as a district attorney. He's running for Attorney General of Colorado. This is a really important race. You're in a competitive Democratic primary. You're seeking the Democrat nomination, and then you'll be facing the Republican, which will likely, if things work out right now, to be Michael Allen, who's DA down in El Paso County. Let's talk about the kind of response to ICE. There's been a push within the Democrat Party to seek to defund ICE, end ICE. Do you support ending immigration operations with ICE?
To me, it's not about politics or political party. It's about our Constitution and doing justice. I recognize that the federal government has powers, including immigration enforcement. But states have local policing powers as well, and that's what I'm incredibly concerned about and what we're seeing in Minneapolis, and I'm worried about it coming to Colorado. So ICE has an important role to play in immigration enforcement that does not allow them to break the law. They also do not have immunity when they break the law. And as a prosecutor and as the next Attorney General, I can promise you that I'll hold them fully responsible when they break the law in the state of Colorado.
That coordination between federal agents and local law enforcement is something that's been debated around sanctuary cities and states. Would you support sanctuary state and city policies?
Well, first, let me highlight that I've had strong working relationships throughout my entire career, both as a prosecutor in New York City and as a leader of the Manhattan DA's office, and then here in Colorado as the head of the criminal section for the Attorney General's office and as the elected district attorney in Boulder County. So some recent examples include my response to the Pearl Street firebombing. We're currently handling that case in conjunction with our federal partners. The King Soopers mass murder, which I prosecuted and tried myself. And the list goes on. And I've always thought the system works better when you have mutual cooperation between federal, state, and local agencies. We serve our communities better, and we're better able to achieve justice. However, I have a sworn duty to uphold the law in the state of Colorado. And as Attorney General, I'll make sure our laws are honored by the federal government. There are state powers, as you know, and federal law does not trump state law.
That's Michael Dougherty, a candidate for Colorado Attorney General, joining Jeff and Bill live. This is a little bit of a sticky question, but I want to kind of push on that idea of sanctuary cities, that we talk about the idea that, we do need to follow the law, but sometimes the idea of universals or things like mandatory sentences can get in the way of some of the judgment calls that judges make. And what I want to ask you about is, can these sorts of blanket sanctuary policies also get in the way of some of the judgment that we may expect local law enforcement to use? What I mean by that is, if local law enforcement has, and let's just for the sake of discussion, a really bad criminal that is also an illegal immigrant and wanted by ICE, a blanket policy saying that they can't communicate at all seems to not be in the best interest of the community. So I want your kind of opinion on the idea of the sanctuary cities functioning as a blanket policy. Does it have the same pitfalls as things like mandatory sentences do?
So I appreciate that question. What I will say is we have a duty to uphold public safety and community well-being here in Colorado. That begins with ensuring that victims can call the police. So I think you probably agree with me that when a woman or a man is sexually assaulted, they should be able to go to the hospital for medical treatment, call 911 to have the police come if they wish to do so, and then come to a justice center so the offender could be held fully accountable. So when you talk about some of the policies we have in place here in Colorado, that's one that I strongly support. And I think most people do, that victims should be able to go to the justice center without fear that they're going to be picked up and deported as a result of being a victim in a criminal case. Also, in addition to that, we need to make sure that local law enforcement, and I think sheriffs and police chiefs agree with this, continue to function as state and local law enforcement and not do the job of federal officers. I certainly agree with the crux of your question that we need secure borders in this country and that people who are criminally convicted should be deported with due process. That should happen. That does happen. That's happened throughout my entire career as a prosecutor.
What do we do, though? I understand the idea of the victims coming down there, but what about the people that are held there as criminals? And maybe it's a larger umbrella question of, is it better functionally to hang out, have them held at the judicial center and possibly face charges there, or should they be funneled towards ICE and deported? And what about someone that was held for a certain amount of time and then is required to be released but is also wanted by ICE? Is that universal umbrella of not allowing law enforcement who has already apprehended someone that is wanted on a deportation order by ICE functionally not necessarily protecting the community? That's what I'm worried about, the idea that in some cases, not all, but in some cases, this idea of a sanctuary city policy can counteract the purpose of law enforcement and ICE in the first place of trying to keep the community safe.
Well, to me, in my career, it's always going to be about public safety, accountability, and the rule of law. And I'll give you a case example from an actual case that I think goes to the heart of your question. Defendant drives under the influence and kills the mom of 2 teenagers. 12 days later, ICE picks him up and deports him without any notice to my district attorney's office. He's been deported to his home country, where he now remains free. That's, to me, the failure or the crack in the argument that public safety is preserved by deporting people as soon as they're arrested on a criminal case in the United States. They're not being deported to serve a sentence somewhere else. They're being deported and remaining free in another country. That means the victim's family goes without justice. The victim's family goes without their day in court. And the community is not helped. The community is harmed by that. To me, that's a failure of public safety. In 2019, we had a child sex offender who was arrested and deported in the middle of a pending case. That victim will never have justice. That's not public safety. That's a public failure. So I strongly believe that ICE should continue to have access to information about who's in our county jails. They have that access just as you and I do. If your brother were picked up for a DUI tonight, you'd be able to find out where he was and go pick him up when he was being released. ICE can do the exact same thing. But what I worry about is in pending cases, individuals should be able to go through the justice system so we can hold them accountable and have the sentence imposed before they're subject to deportation.
That's Michael Dougherty. He's a candidate for Attorney General, currently serves as District Attorney up in Boulder County. Michael, I want to ask you about reducing crime in Colorado. It's something that's very important to me, to a lot of the voters out there. They'd like to see Colorado safer. What's your plan, sir?
I agree 100%. We need to reprioritize public safety. We've seen Colorado and the Denver metro area suffer for too long. We need to make sure community safety is a top priority. That's the kind of work I've been doing my entire career. So I was talking to a couple of people recently, and they said their concern is for public safety so high that they will not bring their family to Denver. They won't bring their kids to a Nuggets game or a Rockies game. But they also noted that they're not actually sure who to believe when they hear about the crime numbers. And I think that speaks to the need to restore trust in government and to have leaders with integrity who are not hyperpartisan. And throughout my entire career, I've been fighting for justice and doing it with integrity. And when it comes to community safety, we can do a lot to improve the laws here in Colorado, but also to make sure those laws are being enforced equally and fairly. That's the kind of work I've done my entire career, and that's what I'm going to do as your next Attorney General.
Michael Dougherty, if you want to go to his website, by the way, it's michaelforag.com, michaelforag.com. In a competitive Democrat primary, sir, why are you better than Jena Griswold to serve as Attorney General?
The next Attorney General will have a tremendous impact on the lives of everyday Coloradans. So public safety, consumer protection, our individual rights, civil rights, and our democracy and the rule of law. So we started this conversation by talking about when you take the federal government to court. That decision has to be based on the rule of law and evidence, not politics. It also requires you to have experience to make the right decision as a lawyer and as a leader. And that's the kind of work I've been doing my entire career. I've been a prosecutor for 28 years. I've been a leader at the Manhattan DA's office, where I supervised 1,300 people, the Colorado AG's office, where I was in charge of the entire criminal section and handled cases all around the state. And now for the last 8 years, I've had the great honor of being the elected district attorney for Boulder County. So I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one. I will always make decisions based on what's right for the people of Colorado and not simply to get myself on MSNBC.
Michael, I appreciate that, because here's part of the challenge. Like, I think a lot of people look at what's happening in the courts and they see lawfare, right? You got the president's mugshot up there, and then people being brought up on charges and the power of what was traditionally like investigative criminals activity being brought on political opponents. I'm on Phil Weiser's email distribution list. I don't know how, because Michael, you're on the show for the first time, and I think you're learning the dynamics. I'm the kind of conservative MAGA supporter, and Billy's the classic independent voter, and so we have this like right, left, center dialogue thing going on. And I'm on Phil's fundraising email list, and it's like lawsuit number 52 against the president, lawsuit number 53 against. It's like watching the counter at a deli just go up and up and more and more. So tell me how you are going to balance both. Look, I understand there's, when you get a Democrat president, Republican AGs feel the need to use their power of their office to stop progressive agendas. And then when Republicans get elected, Democrat AGs feel they need to use the power of their office to stop conservative agendas. And that's kind of the way this country is played out. But how are you going to balance all of those political kind of things swirling around with also the role and responsibility of keeping Coloradans safe? How do you balance all that?
It's about putting principle first and making sure we're committed to doing justice. And politics and political affiliation can never impact that work. And that's not just a campaign promise, that's my record for my entire career. So I think Americans are sick and tired of a two-tier justice system where who you know or who you connected with or how much money you have determines the outcome in a case. That is never how I've operated, and I will never accept that. So I've prosecuted people from all walks of life. I've prosecuted police officers, firefighters, elected officials, including fellow Democrats. It's always going to be about enforcing the rule of law and doing what's right without considering political ambition or political agenda. That's the kind of work I've been doing for 28 years, and it remains my solemn commitment and promise to the people of Colorado as their next Attorney General. And it's especially important right now, because when you look at, and to your point, the divisiveness that we have in this country, we need leaders who are going to stand up and fight for what's right, explain their reasoning to the people, and make sure it's based on integrity and not based on politics.
That's Michael Dougherty, current Democrat candidate for Attorney General. He's in the primary, joining Jeff and Bill live. We sure do appreciate the time, sir. Now, I am going to preface this. Jeff did outline how the show works, that I understand this is not going to be a fair question I'm going to ask you. But that's kind of the thing that I do if you don't listen to the show. And so I acknowledge it. I understand this is a loaded question with the understanding that the answer that Kamala Harris gave during the previous election cycle sort of put her feet into heavy mud. So I'm just cautioning you on this next question. Question I have for you, Michael Dougherty, Attorney General candidate for Colorado. What grade would you give current Attorney General Phil Weiser, and what would you have done differently?
Well, that was quite the build-up to that question. I wasn't sure where you're going with that.
And I acknowledge it is not fair. It is completely loaded. That's why I had to do that.
Oh, no, I think it's a fair question, actually. And I think highly of Phil Weiser, and he has a long list of things he's done well for Colorado. But to answer your question very directly, there's a couple of things I'll do differently. First, making sure that as Attorney General, I push the legislature to reprioritize public safety, as we just talked about a couple minutes ago. Second, I think this is particularly important. Phil Weiser's done a great job getting all around the state of Colorado. I'm also going to have the AG staff given the privilege of working outside the Denver metro area. If we're going to be fighting for the water on the western slope or prosecuting a serial killer down in the San Luis Valley, representing people all around their state, we should have the attorneys in the office have the privilege, and I do view it as a privilege, to live and work outside the Denver metro area. The fact of the matter is many of them have been working remotely since the building was vandalized. Their court building, office building, was vandalized 2 years ago. They've been working remotely. They can continue to make the salaries they're making now and be in a better position to serve the communities that they're sworn to serve. So I'm going to change that. Also, a conviction integrity unit. I was the district attorney who launched the first conviction integrity unit in the state of Colorado to look for possible wrongful convictions. We've had a couple of exonerations as a result of my work. And I look right now at the indictment of the DNA analyst from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the state lab. My office, the Denver DA's office, our offices are big enough where we can go back and look at all the cases she worked on to determine whether her misconduct, her crimes, impacted the integrity of that prosecution. Other offices in other jurisdictions don't have that capability or resources that's required. So a conviction integrity unit is something I'm going to start. Also providing more assistance, and this is an important one, more assistance to local communities upon request for investigations and prosecutions. So throughout my career, for example, I've handled the cold case homicide trial of a 12-year-old boy down in La Plata County. The Boulder District Attorney's Office prosecuted a serial killer down in the San Luis Valley upon their request. That should be work done by the Attorney General's office, and I'm going to make sure that we have that prioritized, that we're helping local communities upon request, both law enforcement and prosecutors, with the work they need to do.
It's Michael Dougherty. He's running for Attorney General. His website, michaelforag.com, michaelforag.com. We also know there's a competitive primary in the Democrat Party for governor. Have you endorsed? Is there a particular candidate you'd like to work with as Attorney General?
No, I've not endorsed. I think if you're asking on the Democratic side, I think both of the candidates are strong candidates and are good public servants. And a wise person told me, when you're running for Attorney General, don't get involved in the other statewide races. And given how hard I'm working as district attorney and how much campaigning I'm doing at night and on the weekends, I think that was some good advice.
We've also seen the Democrat Party shift a little bit towards socialism. Look, we saw Mamdani elected in New York City. AOC, Bernie Sanders, pulled in 30,000 folks downtown. Do you support the Democrat Party embracing socialism? Are you a socialist?
Well, I'm definitely not a socialist. I'm fascinated to see how the mayor of New York City, how that plays out now. I will say, having been a prosecutor in New York City, when I became a prosecutor in New York at the Manhattan DA's office, crime was at an all-time high. There were roughly 2,200 people being killed every year in New York City. And during my time, the rule of law being enforced and a different approach by the DA's office, the NYPD, and other partners, that homicide rate came down to as low as 300 per year. So that's what it means to have the rule of law enforced at every level and the impact it can have on community safety and well-being. It went from being a place where even I was afraid to get on a subway train after finishing night court, which they actually do have night court, at 1 a.m. I'd get on the subway and look around and be concerned for my safety. 5 years later, a different experience. And I think Denver, in some respects, is at that same kind of crossroads right now. I remember getting the job offer from Attorney General John Suthers and my family and I moving out here from Brooklyn, New York, where we were living, to work in the great state of Colorado and walking down the 16th Street Mall. That is a different experience than it is for families right now. And we need to make sure public safety is a top priority, and I'm deeply committed to that.
That's really, really important. Michael, this is the first time you and I have ever talked. I've been critical of Mayor Mike Johnston and their efforts to try to revitalize downtown Denver. And I called this theory the woman in pearls and a fur coat theory, and it was similar to Giuliani's kind of broken windows theory, where I just said the solution is not that hard. We have restaurants leaving. We have people that don't want to work down there, don't want to live down there. You have a vacancy rate in Denver that's at its 16-year high. And I just said, if you can get Denver to a point where it's so safe that a woman can go from the Buell Theater to a restaurant and walk freely with her pearl necklace and her fur coat, not feel like she's going to get mugged, people will come back downtown. You need people with disposable income spending their money downtown. That provides jobs. It creates opportunity. We need that. And I saw the mayor of San Francisco, guys, on an interview, I think it was on CNN yesterday, said that President Trump had called him and they were discussing ICE, like called him directly. And the interviewer was asking the mayor of San Francisco why ICE isn't having all these like major enforcement issues in San Francisco. And he said, because I told the president that safety was going to be my top priority and we're going to turn things around in Denver or in San Francisco. And that's happening. Like things are changing. So look, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, but I want these cities to work and to see that safety is the top priority, I think is a big deal. I think it's going to turn things around. Now, Michael Dougherty, we do have a caller, and are you okay taking a quick call here?
Of course.
All right. I think this is Iggy, right? Iggy on the line with Michael Dougherty, District Attorney in Boulder County, running for Attorney General here in Colorado. Go ahead, Iggy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, that's not my real name. D.A. Dougherty, you would know me by another name, but I have worked with D.A. Dougherty in the past, basically as a mental health advocate in the criminal justice system. He is universally respected as a prosecutor. It doesn't matter which political party, but he's universally respected at that. Personally, I've introduced him at meetings or where he spoke. I've attended meetings where he's been. He is very concerned about dealing with the mental health issues in the criminal justice system, as well as Joe Pelley was. He's very concerned, and he actually acts on that. I'm very impressed with him as a DA, and I think he'd make a great AG for the state.
Great. Thank you, Iggy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that,
Michael
Thank you,
Dougherty, you want to respond?
Well, I think both to that, the caller's kind comments and also what you just touched on. I've been a leader in criminal justice reform throughout the state of Colorado, but part of what our success has been is always tying it to public safety. In other words, any improvement you're going to put in place in the justice system has to be tied overall to community safety. So, for example, to that gentleman's comments, we launched a mental health diversion program in our jurisdiction, along with the full support of law enforcement in Boulder County. And what that program does is connect low-level offenders with treatment in the community, as opposed to cycling in and out of the jail on petty offenses over and over and over again. And in Colorado, we need to do so much more to improve mental health treatment. We rank 48th in the nation for mental health treatment being available in the community. You may see that in your circle of friends or family. We certainly see it in our homeless communities and also in the justice system. We've built programs in Boulder County that have been incredibly successful that I'm going to take statewide, such as our competency court, alternative sentencing facility, but also that mental health diversion program. But people shouldn't have to hit the doors of a courthouse or jail cell to get the treatment they need. And one thing that I want to see us fix in Colorado this legislative session is the law around competency. When someone's found permanently incompetent in a criminal case, the case has to be dismissed. That's the right thing because people have to understand the proceedings going on around them. What happens next in Colorado is the absolute wrong thing. Someone's found permanently incompetent. They can't understand anything that's going on in court, and they're released back into the community without treatment and medication. We're failing that person, and we're failing community safety as long as we allow that to remain the approach in Colorado. And that starts by changing the law around it, but also fixing the state hospital, which currently is a broken system. I don't say that lightly, and I don't say it as my opinion. I look at it, a federal judge handed down a decree in 2019 that every year Colorado fails to comply with standards at the state hospital, Colorado has to pay a fine. So your listeners, the taxpayers of Colorado, have been paying up to $12 million per year since 2019 for failing to comply with standards. As your next Attorney General, I promise you we're going to get that fixed. To that caller's point, and I appreciate those kind words, mental health is a top priority for me because I recognize how many people are suffering, but I also recognize the suffering that happens in our communities as a result.
Michael Dougherty for Attorney General. Go to michaelforag.com, michaelforag.com. He survived his first time on the Jeff and Bill Show. You did great, Michael. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, nicely done.
This was wonderful. I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was a great discussion. Count me in anytime you want to talk, and I would love to come on again.
We would appreciate that.
Sure appreciate
and go get that prosecution in Boulder. What happened to those Jewish folks on Pearl Street? Horrible. And looking forward to you getting justice for them and their families. So thank you, Michael Dougherty.
Yeah, thanks again for the time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Sean.
All right, we'll continue. Would love to hear from you. What do you think of Michael Dougherty? Would you vote for him? And for you conservatives out there, he's the best shot at stopping Jena Griswold from becoming Attorney General. So we want to hear directly from you. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Even Iggy, who's well known on our text message thread as a rock-solid conservative, supporting Michael there. So,
yeah, that's quite an endorsement. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Griswold. You got to join the Jeff and Bill show now.
Yes, you do.
I don't think she will.
I don't think she will.
I don't think she has the guts.
So we got to ask her about that list. Ask about
Come
the list.
on.
How'd you release a list and then keep your job? It's a huge mistake. Sorry.
I promise it will be fair.
Yes,
and
it will be fair.
Entertaining.
Yes, it will be entertaining. It will be fair. We're not going to submarine you. Well, yeah, but no. But we got questions.
I'm not going to pull the.
Yeah.
So if you watch Kyle Clark, Kyle will do what's called flood the zone with questions, or he'll try to sideswipe you with like a weirdo question, like he did to Gabe Evans at one time, where he's like, "Do you support abusing kids in school?" And you're just like, "What?
Yeah, it's like,
what are you talking about?"
Context of that question. Yeah.
Oh, the one that didn't stop teachers from having corporal punishment, but like if you made a kid do push-ups, that would be considered corporal punishment or something like that.
Yeah. Or if the kid at the time is pummeling another teacher about the head and shoulders, I'm okay with a little bit of physicality there. Just saying, it's a contextual question.
So Michael, definitely impressive. I'm a Michael Allen guy all the way on this one. I think he's, I want a Republican DA or a Republican Attorney General that's going to be pushing those values. But if it comes down to Jena Griswold or Michael Dougherty, that's easy. Because all you're going to get with Jena is just more of this politics stuff. I guess I should have asked him this question. If you have a 9-0 ruling against you at the U.S. Supreme Court, are you fit to be the top attorney for the state of Colorado?
Yeah, and
that's Jena.
We were running out of time, and what I also wanted to say is that I'm hoping that he will not outsource as much of his prosecutions. And when he talked about the good people in the office being able to cross around the state and go and prosecute crimes, I was going to follow up. We just ran out of time. We'll do it next time. I was going to ask him, can we make sure that when we have these big cases, or we're prepping one of the mayors to go and testify in front of, could we offer up some of the locals? Just rather than going and spending money somewhere else, because we had some high-profile prosecutions coming out of the Weiser office where his lead prosecutors, he had to go get from out of state, and you and I had to pay for it, and then they lost the cases. I'm sorry. If we're going to lose the cases anyway, let's just pay someone here to lose them. And chances are we probably could find someone here that probably could have won them.
And might have won them.
Absolutely.
For me, Jenna's completely disqualified. 9-0. Smacked down from the U.S. Supreme Court. All right, let's go to the phone line.
The disqualifier for me is the accidental release of the BIOS passwords. For me,
when you're a 70-year-old in jail for?
For me, it's the casual nature of not locking that down. If you're in charge of the AG's office and something like that gets loose when you're Secretary of State, why am I going to give you the ability to have more control over more information? We've already shown me the information you had. You weren't that careful with. So that's, for me, is a disqualifier. If you're lax with the information, no.
Let's go to Francis in Golden. Good morning, Francis. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, you guys. Hey, I just wanted to dovetail with Michael Dougherty and remind people what a horror show Jena Griswold has been as Secretary of State, and now she wants to be the AG. She basically got elected after more or less trashing Wayne Williams, as I remember, and more or less lying about stuff like that he somehow exposed some data breach or some voter data information when it was actually our friend Tina Peters, but that's their day. She also I think abused or misused a photo op with him to try to indicate she was, bipartisan. And of course, we all know she's the furthest thing from that. She completely politicized the office to a point that a bunch of her staff, a lot of them quit.
Huge
I know that.
Turnover.
And a lot of them just couldn't stand her. She was a extremely ugly, dishonest employer. Let's put it that way. And I heard that from the inside. But that's regardless. Then you see what she did with the Trump stuff. Totally partisan. And this is just I'm throwing this out there, and I think I'm going to steal a line from Brockler at one point, but don't you want an attorney general who doesn't have to put into Google Maps the address of the courthouse. You know, I mean, I'm just saying that. You know, that we've had that with Phil. We've had that with, and we'll have that with Jena. Jena doesn't know. She doesn't know the inside of a courtroom.
Yeah, but
you know,
to that point, there's a text message in here from the old school marm. Jena has the machine behind her. I think Phil Weiser tapped into that as well. He's like, I don't need to do anything other than sue the president, and everybody will keep me here. So is that the way Democrats? Is that the way Democrats are? Where you just, if the stronger the fight against Trump, the more we like you. We don't care about anything else.
I don't like these offices being so politicized. The AG, in my mind, and I think traditionally, has to have some sort of prosecutorial background. That's my mantra. And because otherwise you end up with craziness like this. You end up hiring out-of-state attorneys to try cases that probably never should have been brought in the first place. You have all this craziness. And I just think it's a misallocation of resources to allow these offices to become so politicized. How much time, money, and effort has been wasted by the Secretary of State's office in trying to keep Trump off the ballot? Just that issue alone. And then you turn around because you are basically kind of more or less just a bad boss. I think that those leaks of the passwords, you guys, I will go to my grave thinking that was probably someone internally who was fed up with her, who stuck that little
sabotaged
link in there.
her. Yeah,
sabotaged her. I don't put that past people after. I mean, when you have a boss like Jena, I think you're going to do things that might be a little underhanded.
It is interesting to me, this dynamic, because Michael Allen is likely going to be the Republican nomination for AG. He's down in El Paso County. He's doing a wonderful job. But up in the Democrat world, it's Jena Griswold, Michael Dougherty. Jena staking out the anti-Trump. Michael Dougherty saying, I could be progressive on some issues. I'm still going to go after crime. Can it work? We'll have to see. I appreciate the call, Francis. Join us by giving us a call at 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great interview with Michael Dougherty, Attorney General. He currently serves as the district attorney up in Boulder and trying to carve out a unique spot within the Democrats, not buying into the socialist rhetoric. I've asked now 2 Democrats in a row each day if they're socialists. Both have said no. Jeff Bridges yesterday, who sits on the Joint Budget Committee, and then today, the district attorney for Boulder. Is he a socialist? No. And he wants to take crime seriously, but he also wants to find kind of ways to do the restorative justice type of stuff. Do you believe him? Do you think he can carve that out? And is he the best shot to keep Jena Griswold out of the office if he wins the Democrat primary? And it'll be Michael Dougherty versus Michael Allen. Join the conversation at 303-696-1971. Let's go to Cap in Lakewood. Good morning, Cap. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Hope you're doing well, both of you. And, mine's simple. Mine's really simple and pretty quick. He said the words, "We must restore trust in the government." Okay. Now, I'm not joking, and I'm not being sarcastic, but I'm almost 59 years old. I've never trusted the government, even when I was in my 20s, young, and because I had a father that told me the same thing, and my father never trusted the government. He told me that you watch the government. You see, you don't trust them. You just watch them, and you track them, and you have to listen to what they say. You got to watch what they do constantly, because if you don't, well, then you end up kind of losing more of your tempo in your life and your speed and your money and everything. And that's exactly what's been happening for decades as I grew into adulthood and started to get out into the world. I make a lot less money per hour on the equation of what the economy is now than what I did 6 years ago before Joe Biden came into office. He inflated stuff so much, and I didn't get a raise. So that's a perfect example.
Cap, I got to question you on that one. How did Joe Biden raise things? Sorry, the inflation. We were told that it was supply line issues and supply chain issues. Did Joe Biden cause that?
Wasn't it because he spent a whole bunch of government money? Isn't that how inflation works?
Well, and hang on a second. Then how did Joe Biden's massive spending here in America raise inflationary pressures around the world? Everybody dealt with it.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
we got it. Cap, hang on. We'll be right back. Damn it.